I'm so tired of people saying that it's just a movie, it's just a comic book, it's just a TV show. No, it's not. Stories are the building blocks of our culture, of ourselves, even of our own psychology. We are a product of the stories we tell ourselves about our own past and the experiences on a daily basis, but also the stories that we choose to spend time with. What types of values, our feelings, or whatever are they promoting? What types that we like to spend our time around? They're going to shape us. They're going to shape our personality and character, and they're going to shape our perception of the world and the acts and behaviors that we put out into the world. And people don't understand that. They go, it's just a movie. It's just this. I can like and promote whatever I want. Well, of course you can, but you should pay attention to the responsibility that you have.
Consume stories responsibly.
As a member of society, as a human being, responsibility to yourself.
Consider the consequences.
You need some balance. You need some certain criteria that is going to make sure you're promoting the right kind of works, or at least have thought through the type of work that this or that story is going to do in our culture, and then make your own decision whether or not that's something you want to support.
Consume stories responsibly. Consider the consequences. Consume stories responsibly.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another office hour stream. Hope you guys had a good week. Hope things are going well. Might hear some rain, get some like monsoon freaking weather here. Don't know, hopefully it lets up. I just finally heard there's like a flood watch or something, but got a little slight problem with a rain leak that I've been monitoring. It's just something that's like a gutter issue or whatever, so I gotta fix that when the rain stops. Another day, but hopefully that won't distract me too much from the stream. Anyway, welcome to you folks, and we'll welcome the chat here in a second. Nathaniel's a Lowsball. Whoops, what happened there? Big Al Presents. Brian Gilmartin, good to see everyone. Matthew Flynn, so I'll lay a plus size there. Yep. Astro Squirrel, of course, my dear Sound Engraver, and more. Oh, there's Ghost Planet. I was wondering where Ghost Planet was. It's not Streamless. Ghost Planet's there. So welcome to everybody there. See how far we go tonight, as always. I am going to talk about the Sound of Freedom here in a second. I don't like, do I want to get into this? Which route do I want to take into this? First, I'm going to answer, though, Nathaniel Lowsball's question here. Nathaniel Lowsball said, he's surprised I'm talking about Sound of Freedom. He thought I would be talking about the Superman garbage series, My Adventures with Superman, whatever. I had no desire to give that piece of crap any attention. And I don't mind. I'll certainly answer your question, Nathaniel Lowsball. You've got an honest question there. I'll certainly answer it. And I hear what you're saying, Nathaniel Lowsball. I don't have any liking about Lois's design myself, but you're very right to know that if you happen to like that, that's the only thing you like about it, because her character's not going to be anything there. The reason I don't talk about these things, and I'm not going to talk, I talk about Superman a lot. He's my favorite hero. He's my favorite superhero. He's my hero. And you would think, well, you have a YouTube channel about geek stuff. Don't you want to cover everything Superman? Not in the least. Not in the least. At times, I'll speak out against things that people are getting wrong with Superman that have a real cultural hold. Like, the Snyderverse had to be spoken out against because it was a garbage take on Superman, and it needed to be spoken out against. But I have really completely and utterly just lost patience with so many people. I hate this. Nothing will tell me that you're an idiot. If you want to tell me you're an idiot, tell me this. I'm going to see it before I make any judgments. My mind remains open. I need to see it before I judge it. Then come over here. I'd like to remove your nipples with a lemon juice covered scalpel, and don't you dare say no, because you don't know you'll like it unless you've experienced it. That whole, what really ticks me off about that whole I need to see it first is that there's this like ridiculous piousness to it, like this false sanctimonious air of I reserve my judgment until I see it. No, you're an idiot. You're a simp. And you can't say no to anything, so you hide behind this little philosophy that pretends that you're open-minded or that you're really giving things a fair shake or whatever. You're just a consumer, and you can't stop. you've got an addiction, and that's what you can't stop. Boils my blood when I hear that kind of nonsense. So the fact that people are even remotely giving this with my adventures with Superman, even giving it a chance is absurd to me. Like, what is your damage that you need to go give that show a chance? Do you truly not know anything about it? This comes from the same woman that gave us Lumberjanes, the comic, and did that abomination of a Netflix She-Ra series. That you cannot tell me that Netflix She-Ra series wasn't agenda-ridden from top to bottom. 100% is, let's take a beautiful, attractive, female designed character and let's make her look like a teenage 10-year-old boy. Let's remove everything because we're trying to change the idea of cultural feminine and cultural masculine. Let's make everybody sort of androgynous. Let's bring it, we got to do our multicultural stuff because diversity. That show is a 100% agenda-ridden overhaul of a classic piece of fiction, a classic symbolic, a heavy symbol fiction. She-Ra is the heroine, is a meaning loaded, a cartoon. And she did that, and people just gave it a pass left and right. And somehow she gets a hold of Superman, and you're sitting there thinking that's not somehow she's not. I don't know if she's going to put agenda in this one, guys, yet. I have to give it a chance. Please just go click on another channel. I can't even talk to somebody like you anymore. I mean, grow a brain, for crying out loud. This is, and people say, well, I watched the first 2 episodes and I didn't see anything wrong. If there was no agenda, and let's say the first half of the season or whatever, rest assured, she's just biding her time. This is the way the woke work. They want to hook you first. And they've showed their hand in the culture, in the greater culture. The woke progressives have showed their hand, and a lot of people have said no. That doesn't make woke go away. That just makes woke kind of hide itself a little bit. Hydra's got to go pretend it's part of S.H.I.E.L.D. again and just sort of, quietly, until they can, be bolder again. That's all that's happening there. If you actually think My Adventure with Superman might be good, yeah, this isn't the channel for you. And please don't ever talk to me if you see me in person, because you're nobody I want to associate with. I'm not saying I hate you. Hey, God love you. Good for you. I'll pray for you. You need it. But I don't want to. I'm just tired of pretending that I should respect opinions like that. So many people on YouTube, because they're only on YouTube to get money, they will just, I keep an open mind. And hey, I'll welcome my viewers, no matter what opinions they have. Yeah, because you want the ad revenue. If you had any integrity, if you really felt strongly about the things you say, if you're an opinionated type YouTuber, then you would have a little backbone and you would stand up and say, no, this is objectively wrong and that's objectively right. That's objectively good art and that's objectively bad art. Anyway, I've been ranting. Let me catch some super chats here. Thank you, Daniel Heron, for $2. Lemon juice scarlet, you say? Lemon juice scarlet. Oh, is that like gross. Are you referencing blood there or something? I don't know where I got that analogy from. Dr. Y for $10, thank you very much, says, say you won't talk about the new Superman series, but ends up talking about it anyway. You can't help yourself, bro. No, I only talked about it because Nathaniel Zalozball specifically asked me. I was being polite. I wasn't going to talk about it. Now that I've ranted, who knows, if it sounds like a coherent video, I might put it out as its own video. But see, here's the thing with me when it comes to content, and you'll see this in a second when I get to the Sound of Freedom topic that I have for tonight. I will not do a video on a topic unless I have something which I think is unique to say about it. It really bothers me. Like for right now, if you just went and opened another tab and looked up Sound of Freedom reviews, you would see channel after channel after channel from the just kind of talking head YouTuber who wants to kind of make some money, or all the way up to like the conservative news sites or conservative humor sites or whatever. Everybody's got to do a video on the Sound of Freedom reviews. Now I think, who was it? Divinital Kayan, I think, mentioned it in my last live stream last week, and I hadn't even heard about the whole fiasco. But then I was talking about it and put the connection together, talking to you guys about it, about the, the pedophilia that the woke are so kind of hooked on, the idea of sexualizing young children. They're just kind of obsessed with that. It makes sense that they wouldn't like a film that called out, human trafficking of children, for crying out loud. So I thought that was kind of a unique take. So I cut that out and put it out as this video. Wasn't going to talk about it again unless I had something specific to say about it. That's the thing. And I do have something specific to say about The Sound of Freedom. So we'll go ahead and get into that. See, Sound Engraver said, remember the phrase, I've got nothing up my sleeve. The woke have their weapon up their sleeve. Search them. Them. Know it's garbage. Yeah, they just, yeah. No one's getting Superman right anymore. I'm not God, okay? So I can't tell you 100% with the most absolute certainty that James Gunn's Superman's movie is going to be crap from bottom up. But I can tell you that as a human being with a functioning sense of reason and logic, I can look at the type of movies that James Gunn does. He's never done anything remotely Superman-like. That's not to say he couldn't, but he's never done anything like that. Like, chances are his Superman's going to be a big galoot, right? The big oaf, the big lovable oaf that people around him is like, you knucklehead or whatever. And every piece of news that comes out about him bears that out, right? The casting for Superman, whatever. I don't know anything about that actor, but he looks like a pretty good deal. The actress he got for Lois is apparently also starred in like some agenda-ridden, was it an Amazon show or something, Maisel or whatever? I don't know. Never bothered watching it. That's not to say that she's necessarily going to be agenda-ridden in this, but probably. In all of James Gunn's films, the love interest is always having to tell the hero, lead him around by the nose and give him what for, whether that's Gamora or the character that leaves the Crimson Bolt and whatnot in Super. I imagine it's the same thing in Suicide Squad. I won't watch that, but he's also bringing in superheroes. None of the big names, right? Because Warner Brothers probably won't let him do that because he wants to have their own films or whatever. But he's bringing in a bunch of sort of B-lister superheroes to be in Superman's universe. And if you look at James Gunn's films, all of his heroes need characters on an equal setting with him, like of equal power or of equal role to kind of make him look silly. So Star-Lord needs the other Guardians to kind of make him look eccentric and oafish. And that's not a bad thing for Star-Lord. Don't think I'm knocking something like Guardians of the Galaxy because it worked for a character like Star-Lord. When James Gunn has the right subject matter, it worked. But this is not it. So it's going to be, and how you do that is you say, okay, well, but you said, Prof, there's a slightest chance. Yeah, okay. So what do? Do I just say it's going to be crap even though I know there's a slightest chance? No, I refuse to get on the bandwagon. I refuse to say, I'm cautiously optimistic, right? That's what people were saying about Ghostbusters Afterlife. I actually am going to be cautious. I'm going to know that it's going to be crap. If the slightest little chance, slither of hope of anything that it was actually good, it would have to prove to me. And that means that, gasp, you can't be there on opening night. Oh, I know you guys can't stand that. But no, you have some self-control. You live your life and have some other things in your life besides YouTube media. And if the film's borne out and if enough people that I trusted told me it was agenda-free, then maybe you think about seeing it. But no, you know them by their fruit, and I know James Gunn's fruit. It's not bad fruit if it's the right context, but it's not the right fruit for Superman, that's for sure. Anyway, okay. You guys just got me ranting tonight. Right off the bat. I wasn't even planning on doing these kind of rants. Let me jump into my Sound of Freedom talk before I feel like all my energy's gone. So everybody and their brother, of course, is doing the videos, and it's a known fact that these ridiculous reviews, and some people are bringing up good points. I'm not just knocking everybody who decides to do a video about these reviews because some people are bringing up some good new points. When I talk about people echoing each other in videos, I'm talking about the grifters, the people who just can't let an algorithm pass by without getting in on some clicks. So you can tell they do a video about the latest news about this, and they're not even really. And they don't even seem interested in it so much. They're just kind of reading from a script almost. It's almost like those Reuters scripts that come out, where every local news station from across the country, is reading the same thing or whatever. That's almost what it sounds like. So I'm talking about those people. I'm not talking about anybody who has an actual original thing to say about it. I do think I have an original angle on it. And I'll get to that in a second, but I got a super chat here. Eldritch fan, thank you so much for the $5. So I thought the Snyderverse was a legitimate interpretation of Superman, and I stick to that. That said, I'll avoid Gunn's movie like Toxic Waste. I fundamentally disagree with you on the Snyderverse as being legitimate. It's an Elseworld take, maybe, if you wanted to do that. But it's not the iconic Superman. But you and I are in agreement that we'll avoid Gunn's movie. Yeah, it's just not the right thing. But appreciate your comment there. Appreciate that. When you look at the reviews for Sound of Freedom, the one that stuck out to me was the one I have in the thumbnail there. That they said Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms or fathers with brainworms. And it's been said in some other channels that look, this isn't a matter of people not being allowed to not like this movie. Okay, it's about a really important subject matter that deserves to get in the news, and we deserve to spend some time on it and educate people about human trafficking. It's a real horrible issue, and people need to be more educated about it so we can fight it. But that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to like a film that was made about it, right? If a reviewer said, look, this is for such an important issue that people really do need to learn more about, it is a shame that the movie was, not quite up to snuff artistically or something like that. I mean, you can have a legitimate, I haven't seen the movie, but you could have, a legitimate poor assessment of its art or something like that. But that's not what we're seeing. We're seeing people throw around in their reviews, and these are not just people's local blogs or little YouTube channels. These are the Rolling Stone was the one magazine that I'm taking this specific review from. Talking about, oh, it's QAnon adjacent and it's all this kind of stuff. They're mad about the philosophies in the movie. They're mad that the movie is linked to philosophies, and so they're trying to tear the movie down. They're trying to fight against it. And as others have pointed out, they're mad because society and culture is no longer just shutting up and listening and doing what they're told anymore. People are boycotting these things that are going woke, and people are not just being good little, sheep anymore, in some degrees anyway. So that's all true. But that one review made me look through and read that, it's a superhero movie with for dads with brainworms. There's so much in that line, just even that title, not to mention the review itself, but there's so much in that title that speaks to the problems with these people, with the woke, and what they are terrified about, what they can't stand. First of all, I should say that I've read the other reviews too, and it's not just this one review. They all kind of have this opinion. They all have this problem with these specific things that the movie highlights or presents in a positive light that they don't want presented in any kind of positive light. Dr. Y for $5. Thank you. Said, could Sound of Freedom be considered Uncle Tom's Cabin of the 21st century? How so? How so? How so? Because Uncle Tom's Cabin was in the fact that it was a book that brought people and got the issue of slavery really, people talking about it, whatnot. I think Lincoln met Harriet Beecher Stowe and said, there's the little woman who won this war or whatever. Is that what you're talking about? Just like a story that brings an issue up? Maybe in that respect. Yeah. So let's just take the title of that one review. It's a movie, and this sentence is said in a derisive way. It's a superhero movie for dads with brainworms. All right, first of all, superhero movie. All right, there's a little bit of an intrinsic criticism of that, right? That superhero movies are only valid if they're pushing an agenda. If they are starring Brie Larson or a trans person or whatever, unless it's one of their new woke superhero movies, then the superhero. And I'm going to go into this for a second, well before we even get to dads, because this is true. I do my scholarship on the hero's journey and the archetypes and whatnot, and scholars hate the hero's journey. They absolutely hate it because the academic world, when it comes to the humanities, is no longer about, I've said this before, higher education and literature is not even remotely about trying to understand at a higher education level literature. No, it's about using literature as a tool for one of two or three approved political activisms. That's all that's about. That's all art history is about anymore, is using art as a tool for political activism. Whether that's you can choose your feminist, or I guess gender studies is what it would be now, trans or whatever. Your queer theory, it's called, which I don't know how much that plays into gender theory and all that stuff as well. Your Marxist theory, your post-colonial theory, they're all the woke the woke themes and woke philosophies there. And those are the only ones that you can ever hope to really do work in if you want to get a good, solid, remotely tenured path job in higher academia. Because higher academia is not about education. It's not about education about actual art. It's about training activists. That's all it's about. So they don't like the hero's journey because the hero's journey, they look at it as predominantly male. Oh, it's so problematic, and they want to break free of that because they want to reorder reality, right? They want to tell you that you don't. What is their message is not go out and self-sacrifice. The woke's message is no, you're fine just as you are. You're fine just as you are. Well, first make sure you've got some punches on your victim card. Then you're fine just as you are. As long as you've got some cred on the intersectional feminism scale, then you're fine just as you are. And anything that goes wrong in your world is somebody else's fault. And you need to just celebrate you. And if the doctor says that you're 200 pounds overweight and you're going to have heart problems, then that doctor needs to be canceled because how intolerant are they? Right? I mean, that's the woke message. And the hero's journey is not about that. The hero's journey is the absolute opposite of that. The hero's journey is saying, I'm not good enough as I am in terms of I need to learn things. I need to experience new things. I need to process what's happened to me. I need to gain things from my experiences. This is a basic life experience. And the hero's journey inspires us to that. And the hero's journey is the kernel of the superhero movie. Superhero is the hero's journey, more seminally than a lot of other genres or films. So they don't like that. They don't like that unless it's been deconstructed into their garbage, new woke superhero garbage stuff. So superhero movie for dads. Fatherhood, let's just say that even before we get to the next part, fatherhood is 100% on the kill list for these woke people. And you'll have certain people, no, I'm a progressive and I'm a dad and blah, blah, blah. No, fatherhood is on the kill list for these woke people. And in a way, it's because they're against masculinity in general. Fatherhood is intrinsic to genuine, authentic masculinity. And I don't mean to imply there that everybody needs to go have kids. No, not at all. But the kernel, the truth of fatherhood is to self-sacrifice and use your strength to protect others, right? Real manliness, real masculinity is being there to use your strength to protect others, use your strength to serve others. You don't have to have kids to be in a grocery store, say, and let's say you're in line and there's an elderly person in front of you or some kids in front of you or whatever, they're part of some other family. And let's say a tile falls down from the ceiling. Well, if you're a man and you look at that tile and run away and let that tile hit that elderly person or let that tile hit that child, then yeah, go trade in your testicles because that's not masculinity. That masculinity is protecting people and serving people and helping them, using your strength, not to be a predator, to prey on people, but to respect them, to serve them, to protect them. And they don't like that. They don't like that at all. They don't want any kind of, because there's a intrinsic authority in that, right? To stand up and embrace one's masculinity and embrace that level of fatherhood intrinsic to masculinity, whether or not you have kids or not, is to say, I need to be able to decipher between what's objectively wrong and what's objectively right, right? I need to see that the lion about to attack the sheep is bad, right? Bad. You get that? That wasn't even on purpose. But not that the lion itself, is doing anything other than its nature, but you're there. The sheep survival is good. And that lion preying on those sheep is bad, right? You have to be able to you have a sense of authority and a sense of clear morality and conscience. Right is right, wrong is wrong. This is 100% against the woke progressive ideologues. That they want to infuse this new ideology that you, especially if you're a man, you sit down and shut up. You don't get to say anything. Unless you're a trans man or a minority man or this, unless you've got enough little, medals on your victim suit, where you can maybe have a voice. But if you're an actual man, a cisgendered man, you sit down and shut up and just learn how you're bad. That's because they don't want anybody telling you what's right or wrong or thinking for themselves what's right or wrong. They want to tell you what's right or wrong. They want to tell you that. So they don't like fatherhood. They don't like dads. They don't like authentic fatherhood, authentic masculinity, because it's also, as we can just say, it's tied to the hero's journey. right? In order to get out there and be the hero and cross that threshold and recognize a mentor and take some guidance and take that weapon that's special for you and overcome this threat, that it takes authentic masculinity in that form. A woman's got her hero's journey as well, and that's a different deal. But I'm talking about the man's journey right now. And they don't want that. They don't want superheroes, true superheroes. They don't want masculinity. They don't want fatherhood. They don't want that nonsense. Sound Engraver says for $2. I think dear Sound Engraver says Sound of Freedom is taking their culture back. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're seeing with a lot of these boycotts and whatnot. Bud Light and Target and all this kind of stuff. I mean, on the one hand, poor little woke. It's been a rough summer for them. People stopped listening to them. Poor guys or gals. Or I'm sorry, don't assume their genders. Poor theys. It's people are enough with it. People are done. And so yeah, they're like a wounded tiger. They're going to lash out in every way they can. And this movie is just they're going to sink their teeth into it as much as they can. Defendant Al-Qayan, thank you so much, said I think it was C.S. Lewis who talked about how a good man needs to be a brute on the battlefield and a gentleman in the court. Just thought it fit here. You're absolutely right. Yeah, and I would be shocked if Jordan Peterson hadn't come across that quote, because he famously talks about men need to have teeth. You need to be able to be violent if a situation actually called for it. And the threat of violence is usually enough to avoid violence. But if there's no threat of violence, it's like the stores that aren't allowed to prosecute or to stop shoplifters over a certain level anymore. Okay, get used to just everybody stealing from you then. That's the new culture, and that's what happens in those cities where this ridiculous progressive ideology takes place and holds sway. So let's keep with our title there. So the superheroes, it's a superhero movie for dads with earworms, or brainworms, I think it said, brainworms. Trying to basically even further denigrate fatherhood. You're a silly father. You got brainworms if you actually believe that people are out there trying to prey on your kids. Don't think that people are trying to prey on your kids, because then that might make you vigilant and that might make you protect our kids. And then we don't want you protecting your kids from us, because we're coming for your kids, right? That's the woke chant. And it's 100% true. They weren't joking in any way about that in that stupid parade. They were absolutely letting it slip. They want your kids. They want your kids to be in public school, and they want the teachers to have all the rights, and parents shouldn't have any rights because we need to get to your kids. You stupid parents are being stubborn, and you're not listening to us, and you're not training your kids the way we want you to train them. So we need to exclude you from the picture, and we need to sink our teeth and our claws into your kids. So I don't think it's necessarily that every woke person doesn't want to go sell a child into human trafficking. It's not that they literally, we don't want to shine a light on this because we want to involve ourselves in that. I'm sure there are some, but no, that's not the case. Where we're really seeing this overall kickback in it is because they don't want parents hearing anything or watching anything that would make them a little more vigilant and protect their kids, because they want your kids. They need your kids. If they can exclude you from the picture, if they can let you die off and create a whole new generation that doesn't give them any lip about what they want to do, that's it right there. Andres Hernandez, thank you for $10. Says it sounds weird to ask a college professor this, but should people go to college? Is it for everyone? And do you need to succeed, especially at this time? Absolutely not. Everybody should not go to college. And that's something that would have been ridiculous to say. It's a good question, Andre. I'm glad you asked that. Maybe this is kind of what I'll kind of close out on here. No, absolutely not. Everybody should not go to college. First of all, it's way too expensive, and you really truly need to do some real thinking about, is it worth, if you are going to need to look at some sort of loans or whatever, is it really worth doing that? Are you going into a field in which it really is necessary to have that degree? It used to be that you absolutely needed a college degree because there was no such thing as being competitive in any job field without a college degree. That used to be the case. That's not the case anymore. And what's beautiful is it's not the case anymore, because a lot of fields and professions are noticing that the people that come out of college really aren't all that good. They're not that coherent. They can't really operate, whatever their field is. They've just been programmed, right? They spent their time in college being socially programmed, not so much learning any kind of effectiveness in the trade. I mean, there are some fields, obviously, if you want to be a doctor, yeah, you're going to have to go to college, you know. The humanities, you know, I'll give you my, you know, like I said, I wanted to be a PhD in English because I really loved literature, loved story, wanted to get the highest and the deepest education I could looking into story, to literature, to tales. So I got my master's degree. And as I was about halfway through or even earlier than that, my master's program, I realized this already, it's even starting to not be about the literature. Even in the master's program, it was very little. You had to really kind of pick and choose the professors and really work hard at trying to gain an education in the actual literature itself, because most people were trying to get you prepared, trying to gatekeep, trying to get you to make sure that you are a good programmed little socialist wokeite if you're going to go and get accepted into a PhD program, because they don't want any PhDs out there who don't preach their message. And I learned that PhD programs are 100% not about literature whatsoever. No one cares about the literature anymore. They just want to see how they can use the literature to forward their one of two or three pet political activisms. And they call these critical theories, right? Feminist critical theory, Marxist critical theory. You can put the word critical theory behind it all you want. All you're doing is playing politics, political activism. You're not really... And these individuals don't even really know that much about the literature anymore. They don't. Used to be, of course they did. Now they don't. They 100% are just focused on how to use it as political activism. Now that's in the humanities. It's in the social sciences as well. Obviously, it's a different thing if you are wanting to study engineering or something like that, to go be a civil engineer or something like that. My brother-in-law is a civil engineer. You can't do that without a college degree. And I would imagine that the road to being a civil engineer, say, in college is vastly different. You're still going to deal with the professors who are of that woke ideology. But, I mean, I don't know. I've never majored in anything else like that. So what I did when I was, I went ahead and finished my master's degree, and I was like, no, screw a PhD. I don't need a PhD. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to go into further debt and spend that amount of time on just trying to be programmed, you know? So what I did was I looked around and I thought, an MFA, that's the route to take. So I got the MFA in English literature, and then I received an I got the master's in English literature, and then I received an MFA in creative writing, because an MFA is a terminal degree. It's basically a PhD for fine arts, right? It's the Master of Fine Arts. You can't get a higher degree in fine arts than the MFA. And in the MFA route, even though my professors in the school, because it's just the world we live in, we're still, you know, woke and everything like that, they had less opportunity to preach that wokeness to you. You were more focused on studying how a story works. That was part of the MFA program. You know, you're studying pacing, narratology, you're studying character types, character progressions. You know, you're really studying what makes a story work, and you're studying and practicing how to make that yourself as a writer. So that was a wonderful education. And if that interests you, there are a lot of even like low residency MFA programs that I could recommend. Sound Engraver's got her own, you know, own path there. She says there in the comments, I can say as much. I've got 3 music degrees. You may have a tough time even getting an art music teaching job without a degree. But if you know how to teach your subject, you can prove it to them. Yeah. I like to teach. That's the thing. Most professors hate to teach. Most of your actual college professors, they want to be doing their research. They want to be going to their conferences and rubbing elbows with their echo chambers. And, you know, they really hate to teach. Those of you who are college students probably know that. You've had some teachers, and they, you know, they have to teach so many courses per semester before they can rotate out and just do some research or whatever. And it's just a burden to them. I hate that. And I get certain classes, like, you know, if I teach college comp over and over and over and over again, it can get a little tiring just teaching the same subject, but I still love to teach. I love to, you know, impart wisdom and impart, you know, the knowledge and the education and work with students and especially help somebody become a better writer. I like that. And and you can absolutely do that. I mean, especially even with a master's degree, you can teach as an adjunct, but especially with an MFA. Now with an MFA, I could go ahead and teach as full faculty. In fact, you know, I was asked to be a full faculty professor at one university. And it's, you know, I still think about it every day. I said no. I'd be making a lot more money. I'd have a lot more job security, better benefits, all that kind of stuff. But I would have had to sold my soul. I would have had to serve on all these committees. I'd have had to very much concern myself with the diversity of our university and all this kind of stuff. And like, no, my integrity means more than that. Same thing with my channel here. I lose subscribers all the time, not for getting on the bandwagon and saying the right things about the other thing and, do what the other channels do. I'd rather have 20 subscribers and my integrity than keep growing as a channel, and saying the stupid little cat, make sure you smash that like button, guys, click that bell, and subscribe, guys. I really appreciate you guys. You're so awesome. No, I do appreciate you guys, but I'm not going to beg for subscribers. I had another point I was going to make about that. So yeah, it really does depend on your field that you want to go in. I'm really glad you brought that up, Andre. It's a deep question. Colleges are losing their effectiveness. It is 100% possible. If you were looking at a college degree just at the knowledge or the education you'd gain yourself, I would, and I don't say this lightly, I would say you could gain an equal or better education if you really applied yourself and you had the good, self-driven discipline, and you took like free online courses, you used the internet. You could gain an equal to better education about most topics out there than you would going and sitting in a classroom and listening to some professor pontificate about it. College realizes this, the college world realizes this, but they hate it and they're not admitting it to themselves. Like when the pandemic hit, even in-person, universities had to do online classes. And the thing about the state accredited or what, in-person universities, the one thing they try to hold themselves above online universities like Phoenix and stuff like that, universities that aren't necessarily accredited, your online universities, even though a lot of universities now are accredited and online. But historically, it's been that the in-person, 4-year brick and mortar universities would say, well, we impart better education because we're in person, and you can just give so much of a better education to people when they're in person. Maybe to the people who can't pay attention to anything longer than a TikTok video, sure. But if somebody's actually driven and self-motivated and self-disciplined to learn, they can 100% learn online. And the pandemic taught people that. And the universities, is kind of funny right now watching them try to scramble and try to no, everything needs to be in person again. But people have learned that online works and it works better for a lot of people. So it's kind of funny to see that happen. But they're still desperately trying to hold on to that power, right? It's about gatekeeping. That's what the university world is. And, I should make this caveat too. I'm saying a lot of things I'm saying about state-run universities. There is such a thing as obviously private universities are going to be somewhat different, but just because university's private doesn't mean it's going to be all that different. It depends on who's really behind it. Like I'm like 2 classes away from obtaining my master's degree in theology as well, lumping that onto my degrees too right there. I need to hurry up and finish those classes at some point. But and I did that through Franciscan University in Steubenville, Ohio. Wonderful university. I'd be a writing teacher there in a heartbeat if I lived in Ohio. I mean, that's it's a really good Catholic university. They're not about the nonsense, but you always have to take it case by case, because even a lot of universities that would call themselves Catholic, they follow what's called the Land O'Lakes document, which basically says, you don't really have to be Catholic. You can say you're Catholic, but really be about the agenda of the day. It's absurd. So even, private universities, you have to go and look at specifically. I just ranted all over the place tonight. Leia Plus Size says, what I hated was taking all those stupid classes that had nothing to do with your major. That is what you waste your money. Now, that's a good point. Now, what you're alluding to there is a holdover that we have in our educational system about the liberal education, the liberal arts, right? People want a liberal education. And where this comes from is the idea, it really did kind of hail from history when you had the aristocracy. If you read some old novels or watch movies set in the 1800s and whatnot, you see like your average, aristocratic child learns a little bit of painting, learns some Latin and Greek. You got to learn your classics. They also need to learn horse riding. They need to learn archery. They need to learn poetry. They need to learn sewing. They need to learn all these things. And that was the idea, that it made you a well-rounded person, knowing all these things. Now, certainly, just objectively speaking, if you had The more knowledge you had about the more things does make you more rounded. But that's good enough for the aristocracy who can live a life of leisure and has the money to pay for it and doesn't have any other, responsibilities or whatnot. That just doesn't work for people on down the line throughout the years. And it hasn't worked for a long time, but we still have this holdover about liberal arts. Now, I am an advocate that everybody does need, you need to learn how to write. I don't care if you just know math and you just want to be a calculist or whatever. I don't care. No matter what job you have, you will have to be able to write clearly. I mean, that's like the basic job description in a application or want ad, right? Good verbal and written communication skills. They want you to be able to write clearly and effectively. And you'd be shocked at how many people simply can't to save their lives. They jumble all over themselves. They don't know when to end a flipping sentence. It's really pathetic. So you need to write. I would even argue that you do need some education of story, of literature, of art, or something humanities related. The same way I would admit that you do need some level of at least basic math, right? But I do think it's carried way too far. I think it's carried way too far. So I hear what you're saying there, Leah, plus size about, all these classes people are forced to take. Now, here's what I'd say. This is a controversial phrase, but I don't care. I think the education system needs to divide people. And I'm not saying force people into this or that, but, we need to recognize early in the education system that person can be educated. That person can be trained. And I don't mean that in any kind of denigrating way. I really don't mean, the monkey over there can just be trained. They can't be educated. Not at all. No. But I think that we need to recognize that the person who, I'm going to use this as an example, but I'm not in any way saying that every mechanic is just an idiot when it comes to culture. My goodness, no. But let's say that somebody just really loves cars, wants to work on cars. That's what they want to do. Maybe they're not that good when it comes to stories and stuff like that. Maybe they don't really memorize history and stuff that well. They should still get a basic, education about everything. But at some point, let them go be a mechanic, for crying out loud. Trade schools need to get a lot more attention than they do and a lot more credit than they do. Not everybody is going to go on to ponder. I know this because I teach literature. I'm telling you, I get students who I'm thinking, you poor soul, I've got to teach Last of the Mohicans to you. And there's no way on earth you are going to be able to ponder the themes and this book's going to open your mind, because some people just don't have that. They don't have it. So I do think that people need to be free to learn a trade or learn a specific subject if they're not there, for the whole thing. If they want to go study, language and music or art or whatever, by all means, go for it. I got some super chats here. Dr. Y, thank you, sir, said for $5, says it's a shame that many Christian colleges today aren't really Christian anymore. You're right. Yeah, I said that about Catholic colleges, but it's true across the board. Even for Christian colleges, you're absolutely right. Yeah. It's the woke cancer has just infiltrated everything. I mean, when the woke boycotts happened, you guys might have seen the stories about how even Fox News itself, was putting out like diversity material, or Cracker Barrel or Chick-fil-A, all these people. And it's just because the universities keep putting these people out there, and these people know that their job is to infiltrate the system. They're Hydra working in S.H.I.E.L.D., and yeah, so it's hard to find a good, clear source anymore. Matthew Flynn for £5, thank you so much. Said, yes, the Pruv's ranting. I love it. More, please. I appreciate it. You guys did get me on a rant tonight, big time. Yeah, I usually don't do that. It takes up the energy, so I'm probably going to have to close down here in a second. But I did want to, I see that Sound Engraver had asked Andre what topic he was talking about when he asked that question that got me on it. And Andre said, I'm just taking illustration classes to improve my art, and I don't know if I need to take creative writing classes. I'm guessing, Andre, that you want to do a comic book then. I think I've read some of your comic books for the editing. You've got me as an editor at some places. And you want to know if you need to take classes on being a writer as well as an illustrator. You definitely need to learn your craft, whether that's illustrating, creative writing, or whatever. College classes are not the only place you can learn that from. If you can find a good college class, community colleges sometimes have really great. A lot of times community colleges will have retired professors who just go back and teach a class or two at a community college, just kind of like part-time, still do something with their day, you know? And those professors are the ones that are more likely to give you actual education than somebody who's in the university system trying to get their next publication credit and trying to get all of that and everything. College classes would definitely, you know, can help with need some I would argue some formal education with writing. You know, I read Stephen King's biography, and then he talks about writing in general, and I really vehemently disagree with him about you know, how you don't need any kind of creative writing. You just need to do the writing. Just do the writing. I'm sorry, but I've read the writing of a lot of people who've just done the writing for years of their lives, and it's still crap writing. You do need some education. You do need to. Nothing will replace the experience, the work, the practice you get from just doing the writing. That's for sure. But you do need some education. It's not only to be found at colleges, but you do need some education. That's probably a good segue for me to talk about my own online classes that I'm getting together. I'll do that in a second. But Divinatal Kayan, thank you for $5. Says, since this stream has devolved from the original subject, what Sherlock Holmes book should I start for a beginner like me? I'll get back to the online classes here in a second, but you're right, it has totally devolved, and that's just kind of where we are now. I don't even think I have anything else to say about the original topic. I've gone so far off of it. I think I said enough. Sherlock Holmes, if you're used to reading Victorian literature, or if Victorian literature is not a leap for you, I would definitely start with the original Sherlock Holmes stories. I don't have my books over there. I forget the collection of stories he wrote first, but start from the beginning. Just look up Sir Arthur Conan Doyle stories in order, and definitely read those. Those are delightful. Now, if that's a little antiquated for you, or if they're Victorian literature style, which isn't that big of a difference, but if that's just kind of hard for you to follow, there are some modern authors who have written some really nice Sherlock Holmes stories as well, because it's in public domain, I guess. Is it? Or at least it's being licensed, if not. But so I would definitely recommend that. Leia Plus says, you spoke of this professor, but why do the woke attack escapist stories so hard as they have killed Star Wars, Marvel, Disney? It's because they don't want these escapist stories. The classic escapist stories are using the hero's journey. They're inspiring us to look within ourselves, to know right and wrong, to fight evil. They're inspiring people to be better. They're telling people that you have to improve yourself. You have to go out and fight these battles. And that's the message that they don't want. If people learn that message, then people aren't pliable in the woke agenda's hands. They're not, so the woke agenda comes out, says, shut up. No, you don't need, you're fine as you are. You're just oppressed. That's the answer to all your problems. You're just oppressed, unless you're a cisgendered white heterosexual male, then you're the devil. And you sit down and shut up and hear about how you're the devil, That's how that is. I'll get to the online classes thing in a second, but Nathaniel Elizabeth says, it really says a lot that they would willingly drag a film like Sound of Freedom and would die on the hill protecting a film like Cuties. In the one defense that I hear them say about Cuties, now I refuse, obviously, why would I want to watch that garbage movie? But I hear people actually say, which I don't believe for a second, but the movie's not about that. The movie's about how horrible this thing is. It's not about that. No. That movie is marketed. Look at every poster, every preview. It is marketed as though they are trying to get pedophiles to come watch that movie. It is marketed. It's like a parole officer's tool to see if their people are still, attracted to children or whatever. The marketing all over that movie was here, let's sexualize children, and don't you want to come watch some little children sexualized? That was absolutely what they presented that film like in every front. So even in a crazy alternate reality in which that movie wasn't really like that, which I don't think that's the case, but even if it wasn't, that movie still deserves to be crapped on as much as it did because it dared market itself like that. No. They're mad. They're mad because we're not liking the right things. We're not liking what they want us to and not, avoiding what they want us to. Absolutely. Isaiah Parks for $5. Thank you. Said, evening, Professor. How educated are you in screenwriting? Yeah, I've done some screenwriting. My MFA program was a really great. I really appreciated the school that I did because they made you go across genres. You couldn't just focus on fiction or just focus on creative nonfiction. And there's a screenwriting and a children's writing. You had to learn it all. Now you got a major concentration in one or the other, but you had to learn it all. So yeah, I have studied screenwriting, but even before my MFA program, I've always looked at film as literature. So reading screenplays, reading a film as a novel. I've taught classes. I actually teach movies in my classes all the time. So yeah, and I've also for an editor or whatever, drop me an email, let me know. I love screenplays, love movie writing, love that whole genre, love films, love looking at films as literature. And that does kind of tie into the online class. I am teaching, which is going wonderfully too. I'm teaching the kind of trial run of my Heroic Archetypes course in an online class. Now, this one that I'm doing right now is 6 weeks. The one that I'm going to offer, and I'm shooting to offer it at some point before the fall is over, maybe early winter at the latest, but I'd like to do it before the fall is over, have it up. Sound Engraver has been looking at different platforms where I think we're leaning towards Teachable right now, but an online course, and it would probably just be a 4-week course, and I would do the Heroic Archetypes. I would start with the most common. I would start with the hero's journey, the American monomyth. I would basically, if you watched a lot of my archetype videos, I would start with that, but go deeper into it. And I would offer Heroic Archetypes 1, Heroic Archetypes 2, 3, 4, even all the way to 4, I think we could do to really go in. I mean, we go into as many sub-archetypes as I think are relevant to people who want to write stories. We look at the fellowship, when you get teams together. We'd look at the sidekick duo. We'd look at the Trinity, the Epic Four, at the even the Mythic Five. We could look at that. We could look at the origin stories of heroes and how, depending on what kind of archetype they are or what kind of type they are, the type of origin story that they need to apply to or fall into. And that's not saying that, that, I mean, obviously you can write your story however you want it to, but what I'm saying is if you want it to resonate with the human psyche, like we've seen heroes' journey stories do throughout the ages, this is what these stories do, So it's how to make your story really resonate. But I'm still working on, I think I might present it at first with people who aren't necessarily writers can still take it and get a lot out of it. And then I might have like an additional track or something like that for people who want to try to write some of these archetypes. So that's coming about, coming really well. And I'll have that up. I'm also, my goal for next Halloween, not this coming Halloween, but next Halloween of 2024, I want to have a Sleepy Hollow course. I want it because I've taught a course in the university called the American Ghost Stories, and I look at certain seminal American ghost stories from the early culture that kind of resonated down through time. Sleepy Hollow is a big one. I've done some videos on that, but I'll go into it far more deeply and really look at all the incarnations of Sleepy Hollow, what it tells us about our country, what it our society, what it still tells us about our society. Because a lot of things, even if you're like, well, I know the Sleepy Hollow story, I don't really care about it, you'd be surprised how much of a bearing it still has on today's horror, today's moral stories, or whatever. Do another one on Edgar Allan Poe, do one on some Hawthorne. Got a lot of things in mind. If that takes off, if I could actually, how much time I can spend on it and how much energy I can devote to it depends on how much of a reception it has, if it actually gets enough and earns enough, revenue to justify working on the next one, then I will. But I'm really excited about the prospect. Isaiah Parks for $10. Thank you. Said, would you be interested in reading my screenplay? I'm having trouble getting it out. Thank you. I can absolutely do a, if you were looking for editing services, Isaiah Parks, I'd absolutely, offer you some editing services. I can send you my rates for that, or you can email me or whatever. Unfortunately, I don't have the time now just to read somebody's story or to tell them what I think or whatever, because it is like, and I don't know that you're asking this, but I'm just saying people who ask a writer, a professional writer, professional editor, people who ask a professional editor, professional college professor, just look at my story. But just look at it and tell me what you think. That's kind of like asking a plumber, just come over here and fix my toilet. I know, no, I'm not asking you like to do a job. I just want you just come over here and fix my toilet and see what it's like. It's like, no, I've been trained for this. I deserve some money for it if I'm going to do this, But I mean, not to say that that's what you're saying, Isaiah Parks. If you are interested in editing, let me know. If you're just interested in promoting your screenplay and you want to kind of get people knowing about it, if you have a channel or something like that, you can let me know about it. I can't guarantee that you'll go check out your channel in any kind of timely manner, but stay on my radar. Maybe I can help you if the things I see from you look good. But yeah, I just don't have the time to read something with all the book studies and teaching I do now too, just for free or for fun. Matthew Flynn for £5. Thank you so much. So since the stream has devolved, I think the Wanderer is a great fit for the open world RPG games. You're absolutely right. The Wanderer, you mean, not the Wanderer. Yeah, the Wanderer. I mean, this is yeah, I mean, this is Revan or Mitra Surik in the KOTOR games. You know, they are wanderers in the context of those games. Geralt of Rivia is a wanderer. Yeah. It's almost, you need some sort of aspect of wanderer if you've got any kind of open world RPG, definitely. So, all right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up then. I think been going for a while. How long have we been going? Oh yeah, we're closing in on an hour, so it's going well. Appreciate you guys, hanging out, and appreciate the support. Appreciate those who are contributed to the chat. Sorry again that I couldn't just look at everybody. Everybody's in the chat. Sound Engraver has a stream tomorrow, I think at 6:30. She's put a link in the chat there, so you can check that. It's pretty one. If you're interested in classic science fiction, Sound Engraver really loves classic sci-fi. I appreciate it, but she's got the real love for the classics, like the Asimov and whatnot. I'm a little bit more of classic fantasy. And she just recently read Hyperion, and she's going to do a pretty thorough review of that, I think, tomorrow, as well as talk about some other things. So, yeah, check that out. She's got a lot of reviews for some classic sci-fi on her channel. Thank you guys for hanging out. Appreciate it. Yeah, Andre Hernandez says, just kind of finish out on this. It's a complicated topic and things have changed, like the college. Some people aren't sure whether you need a college to become an artist and can get tricked into it. Yeah, they can get tricked into it easily, especially by these universities who go out there. Oh, I want to get into another rant. I'm going to save that one for later. These predatory universities like, hey, we'll help you get student loans. We'll help you. We want to bring education to people who can't have access to it normally. And they're so altruistic in doing that. They're awful. They're predatory. But that's a rant for another time when I got some more steam. Thank you guys. And I'll catch you later.